Brought to you by Telehelping, a virtual assistant staffing company for professionals.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cody Hall. I am the host of The Faces, Entrepreneurs Are People Too, and the founding CEO of Telehelping, a virtual staffing organization, and the herein sponsor of this podcast. So I greatly appreciate Telehelping for allowing me the opportunity to speak with Peyton. Peyton, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Cody.
Yeah, Peyton too. Give me a well-rounded introduction. You already told me you're hanging out with 17 members of your family, so you're a lot more cooler than just a capital organization. So tell me, who we chatting with here today?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I just spend a lot of time on my business as any entrepreneur, I'm sure does. But I'm the youngest of 4 kids, so we got a big family now. We got 17 of us here sitting in Florida, which is an amazing makes for all really good stories if you could imagine.
Of course.
But I was born and raised in New Orleans, and I spent my life there. Ended up growing up and going to Notre Dame. Spent 4 years there, played golf there as well, and then came quickly back down to the south where it's much warmer, to Houston, Texas, where I live now. My background, I guess my career background, has always been in investing. I used to work for a fund of funds, and then I did some work at a private equity shop, which is really where I kind of cut my teeth and got the skills that I have today. And then that transitioned into what I'm doing right now, which is SMG Capital. And SMG Capital does CFO work, CFO advisory work for small and medium-sized businesses.
Very nice. Yeah, we're fortunate enough to work with a handful of fractional CFO companies here at Telehelping. So,
Very cool.
is that what you're doing most? Is fractional CFOs? Is there a specific industry you work with?
Yeah, I would say it's fractional CFO. We can do bookkeeping and that sort of thing, but we like to partner with other firms to do that. It's basically everything from once your books are done to after. So we like to look forward,
Yeah.
whereas accounting likes to look backwards. But historically, my partner and I, we have a lot of experience at restaurants. I served as an operating
Cool.
partner for one of the private equity firm portfolios, and he also used to be a CFO for a restaurant company as well. So we know food. We know food and bev well.
Unfortunately, I know food and bev a little too well. I've owned several restaurants, still own one, and we were going to sell it. We had some offers, some LOI to sell it, and then it started doing really well. It finally hit its mature streak where it was running smooth. I'm like, I'll let it run for a moment, let it do its thing. We finally had the right chef teams, finally have the right operations teams, and it just seemed wrong to, at that moment, finally get rid of it after years of pain. So I think I'll let it run for a year and then sell it. I always say I'm selling the liability, not so much selling the company. Because I feel like restaurants, they have period of time where they do really well. Restaurants are spurts. We're in a good summer spring phase right now. All right, but winter will come.
That's right.
I always keep it that mentality. Like, how long is summer going to be before winter comes is my thought process. And then I'll try to offload the brand that we've built.
I feel like winter comes for any restaurant unless you're Chick-fil-A or something like that. But there's always these kind of brand pops, especially at the beginning, and they grow and they usually grow exponentially, and then you never really know what's going to happen after that.
Yeah, and the restaurant business is an interesting one. I've invested in several that spurred from the financial districts of New York City, right?
Mhm.
And so, as a lot of folks like to open up restaurants there if they're trying to get franchised because they want to be around all the venture capital and the PE guys. But we started one of our first restaurants in Mexico, and everyone kept telling us, you're never going to make it through your first year. No one ever makes it here, right? The restaurants have. The city that we opened our first restaurant in, it was founded in like 1581. And so it's
Okay.
been there
What
forever.
city?
So everything, Ajijic is very like central Mexico.
Okay.
It's one of those places like, if you know it, you know it. It's interesting enough. It has the second best climate in the world. So it's always running as number 2 in the world. No one knows what number 1 is, the running joke, but it's also the number 1 place in the world where people live outside of their home country. So it has more international residents than any other one city in the world, which because it's in like a little fishbowl that's surrounded by a big lake, and so it has a perfect Jurassic Park kind of environment. But all the
Interesting.
restaurants
Yeah, I
have
was
been
gonna
there for
ask you, is
years.
that
And
like
so
I was gonna say if it's that elevation, because like I think Mexico City's at like, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 feet, and it's perfect weather like all the time from what people say. So
all that. And so we started one there. That was a nightmare. I think one of the first things, being that you come from the finance side, which I'm a finance guy myself, which is why a majority of our clients at telehelping are finance people. And I like that you put the designation between we do everything after the books are closed. So huge, so huge. I'm partner at a bookkeeping company, CPA bookkeeping company, and everyone's always like, "Oh, I don't need help. I have a fractional CFO. I have a fractional CFO." And I always didn't know fractional CFOs are going to close the books. If you do, I mean, okay. But so you oftentimes your restaurants, are you working with small individual restaurants that are scaling, or are you working with ones that are already large? What's kind of your client makeup there?
yeah, sure. It's usually we have one client, for instance, a restaurant group that is private equity backed. It's about 19, 20 restaurants.
Nice.
So these are larger groups. We just started
Good.
working, do a little bit of a process optimization project for another group, and they have just over 200 restaurants. So we like to work with bigger groups just because that's our
Yeah.
background, that's our experience.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, the need, let's say, for one or two restaurants is a lot different than the need for 10 or 20 or even 200. So that's where I think we shine. We do a lot of work. We have a lot of background, like I said, in restaurants, but it kind of scales out too. And what I mean by that, it's like multi unit or multi site type of businesses. It could be
Yeah.
restaurants, it could be hotels, it could be franchises, these service models where you're doing a bunch of, have a bunch of trucks like doing power washing or anything like that. We do well at that because there's kind of a data issue, and then there's also a reporting and analysis issue, and that's where we best serve.
No, and that's great. And the point of that question is when the firm that I have ownership in, it's oftentimes working with people who are just started making enough money to be a somewhat big company, a medium sized company. And so, but up until that point, they pretty much could have gotten away with doing their own books, paying some, frankly, half-assed bookkeeper to do it, right? Right. It's just maybe even filing their taxes in H&R Block, right?
Right.
And
I love
so
the
they
term
don't really
accountant. Yeah.
correct.
Everyone's got an accountant. It's not really somebody's professionally trained. It's just they've been the
Correct.
business administrator, and usually they screw up the books, if I'm being honest. And like they can
Correct.
kind of keep it on the tracks for like the first couple of years, and stuff, especially if you're like sub 5 million in revenue or something like that. But once you get to scale, or once you're trying to get from 5 to 25 or 50, which is kind of where we step in, you need some financial infrastructure, which is it's a battle every day that we fight, but it's business owners oftentimes see accounting and finance as a cost center. In reality, it
Yeah,
becomes a value center once you get to a certain scale.
exactly. Or no, it's a huge thing. And, one of the things in my earlier days when I first started working with that firm before I partnered with them is the fact that I would always tell people that, you're looking at this as a cost, but really you should be looking at it as an ROI. Like, what are you going to be getting back from good numbers, good tax strategies? And, you said it well. You talk about data and reporting. When we went from one restaurant to three restaurants, you know, the need for communication at every level is just, you have to have good operations people. You have to have good, processes for the operations people to report through. So I can only imagine having like 19 locations, right? And
Hmm.
having everyone at those individual locations, whether it's an automated system that's providing the financial reporting or individuals who are, inputting, it becomes critical.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we focus in on that, and that's kind of where our specialty lies. But yeah, I mean, just imagine if you had 19 restaurants and one of them was doing poorly and the others were doing well. You'd want to quickly figure out what's going on with this one. So we answer
Yeah.
and communicate. We answer all those questions and help communication on where to put your efforts because you only have so many hours in a day.
No, I love that. I tell people starting a restaurant was the best, worst thing I've ever done. I compare it to buying a boat, right? The best days are the first day you open it and the day you sell it. And so that's that's my
Well,
take on restaurants.
yeah, you're the best boat is your friend's boat. So I'm glad I know you now that you have a restaurant. So
You know what? I do find a lot of my friends when they go to travel to Central Mexico, they stop by my restaurant, and of course I comp their food, right? And so maybe I just need more restaurant friends. That's what it is.
yeah, that's right. They feel your pain.
Well, being that you're able to juggle so many locations, I imagine being around 17 family members is just another walk in the park for you, right?
It's a little bit of a different problem, a little bit of a different scale. I don't have any kids of my own, so I get to play the fun uncle, get to play with them, run around the yard with them. But then when it comes to I don't know, feeding and if they fall down, that sort of thing, I can,
Hands
mom,
off.
dad, So I'm sure that'll change shortly in my future.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, no, I was that uncle for so long. It wasn't until 3 years ago when I first had my son. Before then, I was always, like, notorious for, like, "Hey, guess what Uncle Cody guess what the kids repeated at school today, Uncle Coco," right? And I'm like, "Oh, Lord, what they repeat at school today?" Like, thinking we're gonna start a book of things Cody has taught our kids to say. And so I've learned dearly that logical adult sayings that may be sage and wise, when a kid says them, they don't come off that way. So,
And you got to watch out for the words they mispronounce. Cody, please sit down. So you never know. Yeah.
yeah, correct. Yes, no, I love that. So, are you fairly close with your family at large?
Yeah, we're very close. We all grew up in New Orleans, and I live in Houston. My brother lives in Houston. My parents live in New Orleans. My other brother lives in New Orleans, and I have a sister who lives in Atlanta. So we're
Oh, nice.
all sort of in the South. At one point,
Yeah.
we were. I was in Chicago. We had another in California, one in Boston, and so we were pretty much as far apart as you can get in the United States. So it's nice that we're a little bit closer now.
Nice. Now, is your parents' background or, family like trades, is that what brought you into the capital investing world? Or is that something that you just like went to a Notre Dame, found you had a niche for? Or talk to me about that. How do you get into, not
Not
everyone just walks into capital.
not at all. My parents are both doctors, different types of doctors, a medical doctor and then a PhD doctor. My mom
Okay.
was a marine biologist, freshwater marine biologist, which everyone's like, wow, that's amazing. That's so cool. So nothing to do with business, nothing to do with capital or anything like that. So I think I picked it up at Notre Dame, and I played golf there, and a lot of the guys were in business, and I always knew that I wanted to be in some type of business. Actually, kind of started out
Yeah.
in engineering, and then quickly figured out I like talking to people, and then I pivoted over to business, and yeah, the rest is history.
No, that's great. And, oftentimes the story of many good capital guys is they started in engineering and they realized they had too much personality or a desire to go deeper in something, which makes for a great combination
Hmm.
when assessing a capital investment to startups and things like that, being able to read, numbers and people, right? Because they are very important when making those decisions.
Yeah, and I think that's more of a commonplace, especially less engineer and more maybe data scientist or something of that sort,
Yeah.
coder, programmer, as somebody who's thinking about, leveraging AI or some type of technology. I think that's kind of the modern day businessman and entrepreneur.
It's so funny. One of my investors, this guy, has more money than the central bank. He was saying, I was like, how did you become like this billionaire? And he's like, one day I was sitting there studying and I was hanging out with my boss, who was a marine biologist of 25 years, right? And I'm sitting there hanging out with him with his mobile home, his trailer that was parked next to the water park. He's like, man, he's like, one day if you work hard enough, you'll be in my position. He sat there like, I don't think I want to do this. He's like, so then I got in healthcare. So and then the rest is
Yeah.
history. But he's like, so they're like, I don't think I want to be a marine biologist.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty tough life. I mean, the stories that my mom tells me are pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's not the lifestyle that I wanted.
Yeah, I used to want to. I think the romance of a marine biologist is really cool, right? The idea of what it is you're doing. I think the reality of it can be a definitely hard fought job, right? It's definitely one of those jobs we kind of just look over sometimes, but kind of
Hmm.
impact everybody just because of wildlife, animals, water, bodies, all being very important. So that's pretty cool. In your dad, what type of medical doctor is he?
He was a diagnostic radiologist. He's retired
Oh,
now.
cool.
So yeah, looking at if we ever fell and broke our arm or had a bicycle accident or anything like that, he'd take care of us by looking at our X-ray and bringing it up in the light and whatnot. So yeah, it was fun growing up and always learning about medicine and that sort of thing, and then quickly figuring out that I didn't want to do that. So
Correct. Hey, one of the board members here and a dear friend of mine, both his parents were doctors, right? Became a doctor, was a doctor for numerous years, and then just like it's like, he's like, I don't think I'm made for this, right? And so now he's a capital investor. So
yeah,
now now
quite
he,
the
now he
opposite.
runs a right, he runs a small little hedge fund, right? Because he's like, I don't think I'm made for this anymore. And I think that's an interesting thing that you yourself figured out as well. So, I mean, you worked in the capital side, but ended up on the fractional CFO side, which
Hmm.
is coming in and kind of delineating that knowledge and expertise upon these companies as they need it. Similar, but very much different. Like you got into a career and you're like, I like a little bit about this, but I went in a different direction. Or did it just kind of like flow you that way? Did you kind of process, eliminate what you didn't like and then ended up over here? Or did it just, how did the fractional CFO company stand up?
Yeah, sure. I think it originated with kind of the PE thought, private equity thought, which
Yeah.
was, or like search fund is probably the more popular. Let me go
Yeah.
use my capital. Let me go buy a business, knock down a bunch of doors, as a lot of guys do. And that turned into, I'm not ready to sell right now, but I could use help with XYZ on the
Cool.
finance side or the accounting side or whatever it might be. So that kind of snowballed in what I'm doing. I think the long term goal for SMG is to not only help clients on the finance side, but then to also be investors in our clients because we want to be partners in a similar way that private equity firm wants to be partnered with companies. But we want to do it for the long term and we actually want to be partners and we don't want to have the same stereotypical perception that private equity has for a lot of business owners.
That's great. I mean, unbeknownst to many people, telehelping is an investment firm as well. We have an investment arm where we take strategic positions in because being a virtual remote staffing organization, we have an
Hmm.
opportunity to work with a lot of startups, right? And when those startups show promise, I've done hundreds of investments. I love investing. It's my goal one day is just to be a permanent investor, right? That's all I want to do is make decisions on my own family fund, right? I don't want to work for anybody, but kind of like what I'm doing already a little bit at telehelping is we find organizations like, oh, we're growing really well with them. They show a lot of promise. I like their model, right? We come in and we make an investment if they have an up round or something like that taking place for oftentimes clearly put for some exclusivity purposes in regards
Hmm.
to remote and virtual staffing, right? So I like to plant my anchor right at the same time with my funds, but it's paid off really well. We've done it over the past 2 years. We've made five different investments, totaling well into the millions of dollars, and it builds one really, really strong partnerships, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we want. We're trying to, add value to telehelping by also securing our future with, AI organizations, two of them AI companies, various, innovative real estate property management organizations. And so, growing the way technology in the industry is growing while telehelping kind of just stays its path. It's kind of I kind of compare us to Shell and Exxon Mobil investing in clean energy and renewable
Yeah,
energy while also being a fossil fuel company, right? Where
that's right.
in the world of AI, all these things are taking over, but also we deal in the world of humans, so we deal with people.
There's a little bit of balance and give and take, and that they're becoming a little bit more well-rounded organizations, or at least trying to. And yeah, I would say SMG is kind of doing the same thing when it comes to investing in clients and working with them. And yeah, that makes and forms a very strong partnership for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's your organization. How long you guys been in business?
Just shy of 2 years.
Great. I mean, so you being in business for 2 years, you're kind of getting over a little bit of a hump, right? I don't know about you, but businesses you can grow. Did you grow really fast starting off, or is it like I have a client, that's why I started a business, or you had a business and you searched for clients? Which one, the cart or the horse?
Yeah, I would say I had the idea. I knew what I wanted to do, and a lot of it kind of stems from being at a private equity firm and having this like operating partner skill set. And I
Yeah.
understood what it took to then drive a business to the next level, push it, extract value when it comes to, making it more valuable from a different like revenue stream or a stickier revenue stream or a different type of clientele. Taking that type of skill set and then plugging it into small business. So I had that thesis, I had that idea, and that's something that's really engaging and attractive to me. So I had the idea, and then I went out and searched for clients. I wouldn't say it was a super fast start or anything like that, but I had a couple clients kind of right off the bat, and after doing some networking, going to some conferences, that sort of thing, and from there it's just kind of snowballed once I started to hire some people.
That's great. Being in that good position to start a business, oftentimes people they'll start a business because they have a client, which was telehelping. We started a business because I had a
Mhm.
client. If I'm being really honest, I was the client. So I started a business to support my very well off business. But it's bold to start a business like, I have this idea. I think I can get this done and then do it well. And so, I imagine SMG at the 2 year mark, you guys have, kind of well established who you, right? You kind of know where the business is going and how it operates, how it identifies itself, right? Its clients. Um, and that can also be a struggle sometimes when you start up. So it's good that you have like, this is what we're working on here. You said earlier in a definitive response, we are after the books close. We can do it, but this is what we do.
Right.
Oftentimes people in the 2 year mark, they don't really have that figured out yet.
Yeah, and I think it took us a bit of time to actually figure that out. So not too much kudos to us, but there's a lot of business owners out there, whether they're consulting or even restaurants, where they're trying to still figure out what do they do. And it's like the Cheesecake Factory. I don't know if you've ever been to one of those, but it's
Of course.
the largest menu in casual dining. It's like, what do you guys do? And their answer is everything.
I hate menus like that so much. Just I remember when we designed our menu, my rule was one page, one side, right? Just because our restaurants are Mexican style cafes, right? With a touch of international. And so I was like, listen, there's only so many ways you can do breakfast, right? There's only so many ways we can do this. There's only so many coffee drinks we should offer. There's only so many mixed beverages we can offer. Like if it's off menu, we can do it because we have the things. Great, we'll have an other option. But I just hate going to a restaurant where it's like, what do you specialize in? And the response is what do you want? What do you
Yeah,
want to eat?
and I'm assuming
Anxiety.
I'm assuming what you have is like a Mexican restaurant and not a Tex-Mex because we clearly
Yeah,
distinct make those
no,
distinct
yeah,
in
yeah.
Texas.
It is very Mexican. And so like traditionality, like chilaquiles, enchiladas, emoladas,
Moles, stuff like that.
entochadas, moles, like
Yeah.
it is, you know, hilarious enough. It's called Los Gringos Cafe, right? Which is funny. Oftentimes people who are gringos, and if you don't know what a gringo is, it's an American who, is what Mexicans refer to Americans. I can give you backstory if you want why, but they actually dislike it. Mexicans love the name, right?
Right.
Mexicans
Yeah.
think it's funny. It's like, this Los Gringos Cafe. It's kind of funny.
Well, good thing
And
you're
so,
based in Mexico. So
correct. Yeah. I don't think half the people in the United States would get the joke, but we've thought about changing the name. But honestly, with the original restaurant being open years now, we're still very relevant because people keep talking about us, right? As the old saying goes, good publicity, bad publicity, it's all someone talking about you.
yeah,
And so even if someone's dogging us online because they can't believe this place is named Los Gringos Cafe, right? You're still talking about us.
all press is good press. That's right.
Thank you. But it's just an interesting environment to like to know what you do well. And I think that's one thing that I've always done well is I just know what I don't want to do and what I want to do. Right. Because talking about cutting your teeth, like I've made a lot of bad decisions in business, right? I've taken bad clients who paid but it was
Mhm.
blood money, as I call it, bad money.
Yeah, yeah, it's you're very much trading your time for dollars. And yeah, I think it's difficult sometimes to figure that out. I mean, for me, I just understood kind of what I like to do and what was engaging for me, and turned it into a business because that's just something I always wanted. I always had in the same way that you were talking about it earlier, I always wanted to have a little bit more control over my time. And I believe that I could do things a little bit faster, a little bit better, and then I could also serve much better value to people because I just thought I did it a little bit better here, or at least I could I could fail a bunch of different times to get to the actual outcome, the optimized product. And I think that's what a lot of
Yeah,
people don't do. They don't take those risks. They don't take or they don't take like the small calculated risk. They take the giant risk and then they fail, which is not good. But if you can take a lot of different little tiny steps, if you fail at all of those, that's okay because eventually you get to the optimized product that you want to provide to your clients or to whatever business.
yeah. I say two things to my team all the time: fail fast, and if you're going to fail, don't fail alone. Right? I tell them never make a decision in isolation. Right? I'm like, you have a team. Like you have so many people to pick from. Right? Even if you don't work directly with them. Right? You can reach out to someone who works directly with me and say, what would Cody think of this? Right? And get someone to say, oh, that's a good idea. I would try this. I'm like, so that way, if I always tell people, if you make a mistake, I just want to know what your decision going up to the process was. If you said, "Hey, I just made this decision," just said, "Screw it, let's do it,"
Hmm.
bad choice, right?
Bad choice.
We're going to learn from it, hopefully. But if you sit there like, "Hey, listen, I talked to Peyton, I talked to Cody, they also equally agreed it was a good idea, so we did it." Thumbs up, right? It didn't work out. We learned. What did we learn? We move forward. I say, as long as you don't sink the business, I'm not upset, right? Like,
Yeah,
just don't
yeah,
sink the business.
exactly. I mean, I think that's how progress is made, right? A lot of experiments, little experiments, 1% every day. It's the old cliche, right? But that's the
Yeah.
way it is, and that's the truth.
That's the only thing we try to avoid that mentality on is when we place people. And so our goal, we have a 95% accuracy when it comes to placing. So that means the first time someone hires a virtual assistant, that virtual assistant will stay with them at least the term of the first contract, right? And so our goal is to always hit that. There are occasions though where of plethora of reasons where we have to replace people from the beginning. And it's just, you learn things. Someone gets in their role and the client will come back, "Hey, by the way, right, I knew we hired this, but I really wanted them to do this." I'm like, well, that person doesn't do that.
Right. Yeah.
So we have to change this person. And that's the only time I hate making mistakes, right? Because, when we put someone, I want them to start working with them. And I want to, if all goes well, that person gets maintained by their capital manager and we move forward, right? And we move on to the next client who needs somebody. We're always like progressively planting seeds. And hopefully the farm is taken care of by the farmers. But you have to get that first seed right. Because if not, it's like, oh wait, we have to go back, right? It's pause everything. And that's
Yeah.
that's the only time I don't like failing by doing, right? It's the only time I want to get it right.
Yeah, I mean, hiring is different. It's like a cruise ship. It's really hard to turn around, I guess you could say. And it's hard to know also when somebody's a good fit or not because it just takes time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do agree with kind of like make the mistake, make it fast
Yeah.
with fire fast, hire slowly. It's just
Yeah.
it's a really tough thing to do. And there's a lot of agencies that are hiring really quality talent. And it's even hard to figure out like which one to hire for, hiring somebody.
Yeah.
So if you could figure that out, I definitely believe that hiring the right person can be 5, 6, 10 times better than hiring somebody who's a B player versus an A plus player.
Yeah. And I enjoy that book, right? I'll make a few billion, right? And A and B players. I always tell that to my team, like, listen, I can turn a B into an A, but I can't turn a C into an A, right? And so I'm just trying to hire some Bs, and I love some A's. They're a little bit more competitive, but I'll get some Bs and we'll make them to an A. I always tell that to my team when I'm having a conversation with them. I'm like, if I didn't think you could become an A player, we would not be having this conversation. I'd be searching for a B or an A player to replace you. And so,
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, maybe you have thoughts on this, but like I've always thought you need to hire you need to hire at least an A plus if you can, especially the smaller the organization, like that's what you need. But when you start getting into 5, 6, 10,000 employees, not everybody can be an A. And so my thought is that there's a time when Bs are okay.
Yeah.
Maybe not C's, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, at telehelping, 80% of our clients, we have to hire A plus every time, right? Because often 80% of our clients are between 1 to 5 employees. And so bringing a B player into that size team is not good because
Yeah.
they're not there to make him or her an A player. So we have to, that's the stress of it. We have to have an A player 80% of the time. For our big organizations, we have organizations who have tens of thousands of employees, right? They can get a B player, and oftentimes they want a B player, which I refer to as a fixer upper, right? They would like to come in and tear out walls, right? To make the person their own, make them conform to their ways of doing things. And B players are more malleable in that sense. A players generally have things figured out in a process. They like the way they like doing things, right? So they're kind of like fire and forget kind of folks, right?
Hmm.
80% of our staff want those. I agree. Like when you're the bigger organizations, they require B players. If I'm being honest, because they need someone who's going to come in and get to the step of their drum. Where our smaller teams, they need someone to come in and then drive them, right? Because we're oftentimes hiring marketing people and
Hmm.
operations people for lawyers and accounting firms and financial advisors, right? What do all those people have in place? Most of the time, they either hate or they're bad at lead generation. They either hate or they're bad at marketing elements, right? Or they're highly specialized in managing capital, doing accounting, or doing legal work where they don't want to do all the ancillary pieces. And so really they're hiring someone to complement their expertise in an area where they're not an expertise, which means we have to have an expert. And so I say for the smaller teams, A plus is required every time. And that's why we stress so hard on placement, because when we mess it up, I feel like I'm messing up for my own business, right? And so like, oh, I'm like, great, I got this person and this guy who runs this company who's doing, 3 million a year. Like he needed this person to be perfect because this business is his life and this person is not perfect. So when we do replacements, we stop the entire train. Like the replacements go to the front of the line because
Hmm.
there's no time to mess around anymore. We're already behind. But yeah, that's my thought process on the A and B players. So, but you're right. You 1,500 people, you're going to get some Bs. You're definitely going to get some Cs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the way we think about it at SMG is that you have to be an A player, just because of the size of our organization. So,
Right.
with just a handful of people on the team, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10, even, it makes a big difference if they're a B or a C
Yeah.
player.
No, I 100% agree. Yeah, well, Peyton, it's been a wonderful time chatting with you. I think what you're doing at SMG is very interesting. Much like, we're different in the restaurant space. We don't have anyone who we work in the fractional CFO space that is in restaurant, industrial, finance, obviously. But, if someone is out there listening and they run multiple restaurants, work at a large restaurant group, and this is something that they believe that they should explore, how would someone get in contact with you and SMG?
Yeah, sure. We have our website, smgcapitalgp.com. We also have, feel free to reach out to my email. And I don't know if you want to put it in the notes or whatnot, but that's
Yeah, we'll
Peyton
hyperlink
at,
it. Yeah,
sure, Peyton at smg.partners.
wonderful. Yeah, well, Peyton, kudos to you as someone from the restaurant side. I know the pain of the dollars of a restaurant business, not 19 locations, right? But what a work that you do, and you're a really interesting guy, and I appreciate you. I didn't have much time. I really wanted to dive into your golfing thing. I'm a tennis player, not a golfer, though I do drive a mean golf cart. I do drive a mean golf cart.
I'll have to watch out on the
But
road for you.
yeah, please, please. You don't need to look for my ball at all. It's probably into the trap somewhere or the water, but you should watch out for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Peyton, I appreciate you so much for coming on today. I appreciate your time and I hope you have a great rest of your holiday with your family, sir. Thank you for cutting a little bit of time off for us.
Absolutely. Take care. Appreciate it.
All right. Be well, sir.
Bye.
This video was brought to you by our official sponsor, Telehelping. Need support for your business? Telehelping connects you with top-tier remote staff to help you streamline operations and fuel growth. Go to telehelping.com and get started today.